Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. This is Curt Sassak here, president of Winetasters Choice. I have Mr. Julian Perry, who is generous and kind enough to spend his time with us. He is the CEO of WineSearcher. Thank you, Mr. Perry, for your time. Welcome. And how about just giving us a little bio? I mean, you have a diverse background. You were with an IT company. You owned an automotive shop or store?
Yeah, kind of. So my background is really as a software developer, software and systems developer. I'm, a kind of a heavy IT geek. We've got wine geeks, but I'm not one of them. I came up as a software engineer and then ended up starting a company in 1995 in London to build websites for businesses. And we quickly fell into building websites for car dealers or for wine merchants. And it both came about kind of by accident. You just fell into those industries, but once you're in an industry, you get more business in that industry. So after a few years of doing that, I'd made a connection with Martin Brown, who is the founder of WineSearcher. And so he came to me in '99 and said, I want to build this site to help people find rare and difficult to find wines. And could I build the website? We worked together on that, and that was 21 years ago. So it's been a long journey.
So what led to, so you built the website 21 years ago. What led to you taking over as CEO? What events transpired?
Martin started the business in London in '99, as I said, and then in 2003, I think he moved himself and his family back to New Zealand. He's a Kiwi, and he wanted to run the business from New Zealand. So the business ran from here and built, pretty much the state it is now from New Zealand, which is pretty impressive in itself. And about 3 years ago, I'd come over to visit and to work with the team here. My company in the UK has always done the website hosting and development for the website side. The back end stuff is done from New Zealand, but the front end stuff was run from London. And so I came over and Martin said, "Hey, you really like it here? Why don't you come and be CEO?" So I thought, well, that'll be a great challenge. So I thought I'd take the reins.
Nice. When it comes to designing a website like WineSearcher, what were challenges inherent to designing WineSearcher that maybe were not inherent to an automotive website or another website?
Okay, so WineSearcher is kind of special because it's not an e-commerce website. We don't sell wine, we don't deliver wine, we don't touch wine. We're really a search engine. We are the Google of wine. And so really what we're about is the machine that runs the business is IT. It's an IT machine. And we collect a massive amount of data, and we use a team of 20 highly skilled, highly trained wine specialists to interpret that data, to train a bunch of AI engines and what have you, to match all the wine together so that we know that this wine is a Pinot Noir and that wine was made by this producer and these 10 different, thousands of different merchants around the world all describe the same wine differently. And so we have a bunch of engines that map all that together. And so we really have a marriage of wine specialists and IT people. And that is what comes to make WineSearcher what it is. And so Google, for example, is non-specialist.
Right.
Whereas WineSearcher is a specialist search engine, and that requires particular aspects.
Oh, okay. So, like, for example, there's a grape in France called Mourvedre, but in Spain they call it Monastrell. So I guess the wine guys at WineSearcher would work with the IT guys to say, look, if somebody is searching in WineSearcher for Mourvedre, it should also pull up Monastrell or things like that.
Exactly, yeah. There's a whole bunch of wine specializations, so we have a list of about 5 million terms that are common misspellings and common misinterpretations of wine names or wine terms, and that would be the same. Syrah and Shiraz are often confused, and there's a bunch of stuff like that. the demand, particularly in the US, for spirits has grown significantly over the last few years, and spirits are much more kind of dynamic area. Wine is a sort of more traditional area where the growing methods and the production is more established, whilst there is huge variety. Whereas with spirits, there's some really wacky stuff being done. There's this sort of genetic production, molecular production, and all sorts of stuff going on.
Well, but also, too, I know that in the United States, American whiskey is growing. Another one, rye whiskey, has been growing in popularity. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the United States when it comes to spirits. When it comes to WineSearcher, people are using it all over the world. What are maybe 2 or 3 trends you have noticed from, running the company, whether it be in America, people are drinking more Chianti, or in the UK, just, are there any kind of trends you've noticed since taking over, wine? Well, it could be wine or spirits or beer trend.
So there's I guess it's kind of too big a subject in a way, because, for example, some of the trends we see are really more to do with the internet than they are to do with user preferences. So, for example, about 2 years ago, we started getting masses of traffic from India. Now, in India, for many years, it's been illegal to buy alcohol online. And so, we were kind of trying to work out, why are we getting all this traffic from India? And India is so big that when you get traffic from India, you get a lot of it. And so they were all searching for Australian beers. And it turned out that the Indian cricket team were playing the Australian cricket team. And so the Australian cricket team was sponsored by Castlemaine, a brewery in Australia. And, you get all these kind of strange connections coming up. We get a lot of traffic. If Gordon Ramsay is doing a show and there's a wine mentioned, that will peak on our search list. If David Beckham is drinking rosé in the south of France, then that rosé will be the most searched for wine. There was an interesting one recently where a famous golfer was photographed by a swimming pool with drinking from a bottle of Haut-Brion. And all of a sudden, we had thousands of searches for Haut-Brion. It's really interesting to explore. And also during the election first time round for Trump, Trump has a winery, and so there was a peak of searches for Trump wines. So,
what have you noticed about the United States specifically? What kind of trends, or maybe not a trend, just because you guys are going to look at it differently than we would. What are you seeing in the United States?
So the thing that fascinates us the most about the US is, the US is probably 55% of our business.
Wow.
So it's a really, really important part of the business, but it's certainly not all of it. And what's really interesting and challenging for us is all of the diverse and interesting legal rules you have around wine and spirits.
That's a polite way to put it.
Again, I'm being polite. And I've done a couple of trips to the US prior to COVID to try to learn and understand the nuances of who's allowed to own a liquor store, and where are you allowed to deliver, and what types of products can you deliver over a state line and between which states, and how does that impact? Obviously, most recently, there's been big impacts on direct-to-consumer shipping from wineries. So there's a bunch of changes around that are really interesting to us and really affect our business, hopefully in a positive way. We're just looking to connect consumers with wine and spirits, and whether they buy direct from the direct from the wineries, or whether they go through a national store like Wine.com or Total Wine, or whether they go to their local liquor store. It's all great as long as they're able to find the diversity of product they want at the price that's good for them. that's what matters to us. But yeah, it's like I say, it's a fascinating and challenging market. We used to have a list of states for each store. We would have a list of states that store can deliver to, and we've had to change it to a list of states you can deliver wine to, and then a separate list of states that you can deliver spirits to. And then the other challenges are if you move slightly up the scale and go to the higher end wines. Of course, there's pre-delivery wines and futures. So you're buying wines that are still in France. They're either still in barrel or they've been bottled, but they're wines that are not physically in the US, and therefore is the merchant selling them with tariffs or without tariffs? Because if the wine isn't going to be delivered for 3 years, well, there's no need to charge a tariff because we don't know what the tariffs will be in 3 years' time.
Right.
So it's really challenging. And yeah, it keeps us on our toes.
I love this thing where you open it up. It says recommended wines near Plano. That's fantastic.
That's actually an area we're looking to move into more. So for years, we've been, I think, by far the best place to find wines by name. If you know the name of the wine, we will tell you where to buy it and how much. But we're looking more to be able to search for wines by attributes, by show me the best Pinot Noir near me. Show me bourbon in Auckland. Show me within a price range. Show me the best value as opposed to the cheapest. All of these factors are things that are interesting to consumers. We need to be specific. I mean, we've got about 8 years ago, we had 100 million pages listed in Google's index. Because what worked for us was to have what's called the long tail, millions of different pages. Now, actually, we've backed off from that significantly because it's not the best way of doing things, and we've now got about 8 million pages in Google, and that just reflects the massive variety of wine and spirits that are available. Okay, because I mean the one aspect of our business that is kind of a growth area for us is selling finding ways to make our data valuable. We collect an enormous amount of data on people's searches. We don't track individuals at all. We don't really mind who you are or what age you are or whatever. We just want to know what you're searching for and kind of what city you're in. So we know that we know whether we get more searches for Pinot in New York or whether we get more Cabernet in California. We know not only what people are searching for, but what they're clicking through to. So we know the value of what they're clicking through to. So are there more people clicking through on $20 to $40 whiskey than $50 to $70 whiskey? So there's an enormous amount of data. And of course, we've got 10 years of history with our data. And so we can see trends over a 10-year period of user preferences. Again, not on an individual level, it's on a kind of a global level. So that's a really important aspect to the business now, is to find ways to make use of that data that we've collected.
Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Julian Perry, the CEO of WineSearcher. That's wine-searcher.com for those of you who are interested. It is a wonderful website to help you not only find wine, but there's educational material, there's tips. It's basically anything and everything wine and spirits and beer, right? Yep. So
great.
Thank you for your time. I wish you all the best, and be safe out there.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.